January 29, 1951. Henrietta Lacks walks into Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore complaining of vaginal bleeding. She's 31 years old, black, mother of 5 children. The doctors examine her and find a large malignant tumor on her cervix. She begins radiation treatment immediately, standard procedure for the time. But there's something else that happens, something Henrietta doesn't know about and didn't consent to. During her treatment, a doctor named George Gee takes a sample of her cervical cells without asking permission. It's 1951. Medical ethics around consent are virtually non-existent, especially for black patients. Gee wants to study her cancer cells. He's been trying for years to grow human cells in culture for research. Every attempt has failed. Human cells die quickly outside the body, but Henrietta's cells are different. They don't die. They multiply. Aggressively, endlessly. They're immortal. And they're about to change medicine forever. Before we continue, your like and subscription are essential. They tell YouTube that stories about medical consent and ethics matter. Thank you. Henrietta Lacks dies on October 4, 1951, just 8 months after her first hospital visit. Cervical cancer has ravaged her body. She's buried in an unmarked grave in Virginia. Her family mourns. Her children are left without a mother. And at Johns Hopkins Hospital, George Gee is conducting experiments on her cells that will make medical history. He calls them HeLa cells, an abbreviation of Henrietta Lacks. But he doesn't tell anyone who Henrietta was. He distributes the cells to research labs worldwide, free of charge initially, though pharmaceutical companies will later make billions from them. And the cells do something extraordinary. They survive indefinitely, doubling every 24 hours, growing faster than any human cells ever observed. Within a few years, HeLa cells are in laboratories across America. Jonas Salk uses them to develop the polio vaccine in 1954, one of the greatest medical breakthroughs of the 20th century. HeLa cells help scientists understand how viruses infect cells, how cancer spreads, how radiation affects DNA. They're used in gene mapping, cloning research, in vitro fertilization. They're sent into space to see how cells behave in zero gravity. They've been used in HIV/AIDS research, developing drugs that turned a death sentence into a manageable condition. Tens of thousands of scientific papers have been published using HeLa cells. Medical innovations that have saved millions of lives were only possible because of Henrietta Lacks's cells. But her family knows none of this. They think their mother and wife died and was buried and forgotten. They have no idea she's alive in laboratories worldwide. 1973. 22 years after Henrietta's death, a scientist contacts her family asking for blood samples. The family is confused. Why would anyone want their blood? The scientist explains, awkwardly, inadequately, that their mother's cells have been used in research. Her children don't understand. Their mother is dead. How can her cells be alive? No one ever asked them for permission. No one ever told them what happened. And now they're learning that their mother's cells, taken without consent, have been bought, sold, patented, and used to generate billions in pharmaceutical profits. And the Lacks family, they can't afford health insurance. If you're finding value here, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us continue rescuing these stories. Thank you. The ethical violations are staggering. Henrietta Lacks never consented to her cells being taken. She never knew they would be used in research. Her family was never informed, never consulted, never compensated. Meanwhile, biotech companies patented discoveries made using HeLa cells and made fortunes. Researchers built entire careers on HeLa research. Universities profited from patents. And Henrietta Lacks's descendants, some of whom developed the same cervical cancer that killed their ancestor, couldn't afford medical care. It's a grotesque injustice, and it took decades for anyone to care. Rebecca Skloot, a science journalist, spent years researching Henrietta's story. In 2010, she published The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, a book that finally told the full story. It became a bestseller. It was adapted into an HBO film. Suddenly, the world knew Henrietta's name. And people were horrified, not just by the lack of consent, but by the racial and economic exploitation. A poor black woman's cells were taken without permission and used to enrich corporations and institutions that gave her family nothing. Medical ethicists began re-examining consent protocols, laws were updated, and Henrietta Lacks became a symbol of everything wrong with medical research ethics in the 20th century. In 2013, the National Institutes of Health reached an agreement with the Lacks family. They would have some input over how HeLa cells are used in research. It's not compensation. It's not justice. It's acknowledgement. And it came 62 years too late. Henrietta Lacks's cells have contributed to more than 17,000 patents. They've been cited in over 110,000 scientific papers. They've generated an estimated $3 billion in revenue. Her family received nothing until very recently, when some biotech companies began voluntary payments, still a fraction of what's owed. Henrietta Lacks' story asks uncomfortable questions. Who owns your cells once they leave your body? Do you have a right to know if your biological material is used in research? Should families be compensated when their loved ones' cells generate massive profits? These questions didn't have good answers in 1951. They still don't have perfect answers today. But because of Henrietta Lacks, we're at least asking them. Medical consent laws are stronger now. Patients have more rights. Research ethics boards exist specifically to prevent what happened to Henrietta from happening again. Her cells saved millions of lives. Her story is saving future patients from exploitation. Every person who received the polio vaccine owes their protection to HeLa cells. Every cancer treatment developed using cell culture research owes a debt to Henrietta Lacks. And every patient who now signs a consent form before medical procedures. They're benefiting from a system that learned, far too late, that consent matters. Henrietta Lacks died in 1951, but her cells are still alive, still multiplying, still contributing to science, and her name, finally, belatedly, is being honored for the contribution she never knew she made. If this story moved you, your like and subscription make a real difference. They help us continue telling the truth about brilliance and injustice the world tried to forget. Thank you for being here.